What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Steelers Breakdown Podcast. Nick Farabaugh here. Off day today for the Steelers. They will get back to practice tomorrow on Tuesday. And then obviously that will lead up to their last preseason game against the Detroit Lions. And we will see kind of how that all progresses and where that goes. But the Steelers this week, folks, are going to probably take it a little slower. I wouldn't expect as much fireworks. I sure I do expect the starting offense to probably play, probably because they need to be quite honest with you. But they might take it easier with guys like Watt, Hayward, Fitzpatrick, just any veteran, especially on the defensive side of the ball, doesn't really need to play. I would expect that. But what I really want to talk about today and what I want to dive into has been the hot topic around Pittsburgh really throughout the last 2 days, and it's been Broderick Jones. We'll get to the quarterback situation. We'll get to, you know, Russell Wilson and Justin Fields at another point this week. Just don't feel like right now I even have a full kind of view of what that is going to mean for the Steelers. And kind of how those two have even kind of stacked up. I just think it's been it's been honestly hard at times to evaluate what you're seeing from those two. So we'll talk about it and what the L-22 I thought kind of revealed. I'll talk about that probably tomorrow when we get to talk to them too. I think you'll get some more clarity there. But I want to talk about Broderick Jones today. Really break this down. Uh, the pros, the cons, where we're at, why I'm harping so much on him going back to left tackle, why that might not even be the solution right now, at least short term, long term, I think it could be. Um, but let's talk about this. So we've all seen it. Broderick Jones has struggled immensely throughout this preseason. Just allowing pass rushers to bully him, push him off his spot like we didn't see last year. And more importantly, the run game, man. I mean, that's what his big positive was last year. Non-existent. Just nothing. I just haven't really felt like there's any sizzle to it at all. I really don't feel like he has done much in the run game or in the pass game. He doesn't get vertical movement in the run game. He's not really on the move as much anymore either, so he's not pulling. But it's been tough to watch. It's so his technique is still an issue. His footwork, his pad level, they still don't look great. He plays with a wide or an arrow base, doesn't really get to his spot all the time, relies a lot on athleticism, et cetera, et cetera. But just I don't want to play down this elbow injury. I think it's time to talk about this elbow injury as something that is really affecting Broderick Jones. And here's why. It's not really hard to understand coming from an offensive line background. So when you look at what Broderick Jones has done throughout the offseason and what I've seen him talk about and do, he's talked about independent hands, which means what you think is your one hand punching at a time. You're not punching with both hands because that can allow you to that sometimes allows you to overextend. And it can be a real issue when you overextend like that. You can have wide punches, the timing can be off. All of these are issues with Broderick Jones. His punches are wide, they're late. He's opening up his chest as a result. He's playing very high. So guys are getting underneath his pads and forklifting him. Look at the Greg Rousseau second sack where he just threw him out of the picture. You see all of this cropping up consistently on film. And so his hands have no pop at all. Something that he could sometimes get by with was even if he wasn't at his spot and it wasn't perfect, sometimes the pop in his hands, he's got heavy hands. His hands have no pop. It also explains why he's not getting any vertical movement in the run game. He's not really moving guys. And so you take a look at this and you're like, how are you going to play this guy right now? And I'm not sure if it's the elbow injury. I don't know how painful the elbow injury is, exactly where it's at. And more importantly, I'm not really sure where it goes when is it the brace? Does he have to wear the brace? Could he take the brace off, et cetera, et cetera? I think that is it. These are different variables when it comes to it. But that elbow injury is definitely affecting him, and I know it because he doesn't get any movement in the run game. If there's one thing I knew about Broderick Jones, I knew he was going to be a raw pass protector coming out. I knew he was going to be tough in those areas, but I also knew he was going to be a menace in the run game. He's a great athlete. He moves bodies. He gets vertical movement. He's powerful. There's no question about that, and he's just not moving anybody right now in the run game. And so that lets you know that this elbow thing it's concerning. And it's not necessarily like it's gonna, okay, rest until week one and it'll be fixed. Like, I don't know what the injury is. I think it's I've heard from other guys that have had similar injuries that have this, that this can be a season long thing and you can have um surgery on it. Now that's with this elbow brace, et cetera, et cetera. How long does he have to wear the elbow brace for? All of that comes into play. But he can't start playing like this right now at left or right tackle. And this is the second part of this, that I think the Steelers have definitely messed this up to a degree either way. I haven't loved the flip-flopping of him consistently, and I've talked about this. I would like to see him play at one spot. Preferably that's left tackle because that's his natural spot. And that's where he's going to go eventually because Troy Fautanu is going to right tackle, and I think Fautanu is going to be healthy and ready to start week one. Um, but here's the thing with Broderick Jones. He came out raw. You had to rework his footwork, you had to rework the hands. They focused on the hands and stuff a lot. And the feet were a big thing for him at left tackle, but then he switched to right and it got all thrown off. So the footwork's going to take time. Listen, he might be raw technically throughout the second year. I don't think switching him from right to left tackle magically fixes the deficiencies we've seen in pass pro from a technical standpoint in terms of his footwork and his wide punches and his pad level, because those are still going to be issues whether that elbow is good or not. Where you play with the narrow base, you play with the too wide of a base, you try to rely on your natural tools a little bit too much. You definitely see that, but he's also playing with no confidence and no punch and no real workable counters to anything. So he's just getting beat like a drum. And in the run game, he gives no vertical movement. And so that's concerning. That's really concerning to me. Um, and so what I would like, I think what the Steelers should do, at least in the short term, is one, let's figure out what this elbow thing is. Does he have to wear this brace? I think the brace is part of it because his left arm is extremely stiff. He can't get any extension on it. He's got a two-hand punch because there's no strength coming off that punch because it's so stiff, so you can't really power through it. So really, when I look at it, folks, this is a concern because if this elbow injury is going to linger all year, I don't really know how you can start him right now with what we've seen. I mean, maybe he has to learn how to play with it. Maybe you have to do different techniques and teach him different things, but it's very clear. I don't care what you think of Dan Moore overall. What I do know about Dan Moore is that guy is better right now than what we're seeing at Broderick Jones. So, I mean, if this isn't fixed, if the technical deficiencies are so exacerbated even by this elbow injury, the week one starting tackles at left tackle are probably it's probably going to be left tackle Dan Moore, right tackle Troy Fautanu. Those might be your two best tackles right now. And in the long term, I think Broderick Jones needs to stick at one spot. I think he needs to be the left tackle. I think that's where he needs to go. And I don't want him moving from that spot for the year. He's going to be the swing tackle though. So, I mean that puts him in a tough spot, right? This is a guy that needs to sit at one spot and just learn the base of technique. He can't be flopping flipping all around to both sides. Some guys can't do it. It's not that I don't think Broderick couldn't do it at some point in his career. It's just I don't think it's a good move for him early in his career to be doing that. And so, when you are building up a guy in pass pro like he was last year, and you saw the struggles down the stretch last year in pass pro, that's another thing I've seen. A lot of people saying Broderick was really good last year. He was great in the run game, but pass pro man down the stretch, he was tough. He was rough. There were some rough reps there on tape if you go back and watch it. So definitely something to think about with that. But I don't think naturally what I do think some people are saying and thinking about when I say to flip him from right to left full time is, oh, you flip him to left tackle and everything goes away just because he's more comfortable. He'll be good. He's going to be great in pass pro all of a sudden. No, it's not like that. I think they might have stunted the development a little bit just by pushing him over to right and flipping him around. And he doesn't really have one clear spot. He doesn't know. He keeps saying, I don't know. And I think he just needs clarity of a spot to train at, spot to work at, or understand technique, hand usage, et cetera, outside, inside hand, the level of his hands, all of these different intricacies that go into good offensive line play. There's so much that Broderick Jones came into the league having to work on there. I think he just needs one spot to learn that, to understand that, to have it drilled into his head. And then you can maybe start focusing on the other stuff, flipping him to one side or the other. But right now, he's got to focus on one spot and he's got to figure out what's going on with his elbow and if he can seriously play with that brace or without it. I don't know if he magically sheds the brace, if, you know, it's going to be better. Who knows what the injury is? The brace might be needed to make sure re-injury doesn't happen. I mean, there's all of this going on in this situation. And I just think Broderick Jones is a curious case in terms of short-term stuff because I think in short term, you got to figure out what's going on with his elbow. Can he play at a decently high enough level to be trusted to start? If not, Dan Moore has to start week one and Troy Fautano has to start week one too. And in long term, this is a guy that needs one spot to sit down, learn the techniques of the position, have clarity in his role, and then eventually you can kind of fix him back, right? You can flip him again. You can do different things like that. But I wouldn't go, continuing to flip flop him all around and expect him to grow. I just don't think that's smart. So there's like three different things here. And kind of a TLDR is one, if this elbow injury is a bad thing, Dan Moore's got to start, figure out what happens with this elbow injury. Can he play left, etc.? Can he play at a high level, even with this injury? Two, I think he needs one spot, whether that's right or left, with Fauteuil playing right. Figure that's going to be left. So one spot, learn the technique base. Three, just because he moves back to left tackle does not mean he's going to be good. You saw the Texas tape, wasn't that good at left tackle, but he's going to be more comfortable. And I think he's going to be able to kind of learn the development there, learn the techniques there and pass for that will allow him to take the steps he needs. So a lot going on with Broderick Jones right now. A lot going on between the injury. I think their mismanagement of him through his rookie year and through the start of the second year and where they need to go from here to, I think, maximize what they did with that first round pick last year. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening to Steelers Breakdown. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn on the notification bell. If you're listening to this on a podcast platform, make sure to leave a review. We'll be back tomorrow, me and John Lucy, with more. Thanks for listening, everybody.